Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show.
Join us as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show.
And welcoming back for another special episode. We are talking about the beloved actor, producer, and activist that is Tom Hanks. So, here from the podcast that wouldn't die is the intro. We got Queen Erin and King Kevin.
He ain't my king.
I just gave him a title. I respect.
I'll take it. That's cool.
How
No
dare
complaints on
you,
this
sir.
end. Good times.
More or less.
I'm rebranding as Empress.
Oh, it's that kind of day.
Czarina.
Czarina. Ooh, that does kind of roll off the tongue, doesn't it?
Oh, man. So, where does Tom Hanks rank in your top 10 actors?
He doesn't.
He doesn't.
I'll tell you what, I really enjoy Tom Hanks. I mean, I remember there was a movie he did. It was a TV movie he did way back.
Aces and Monsters.
It's like you read my mind. And speaking of somebody who plays Dungeons and Dragons, it is all true. It is absolute fact. The dangers represented in mazes and monsters. Good times.
Hold up now. I just got hate mail from like 500 different D&D guys. I have to fix this in post.
It's hilarious.
Before there was Harry Potter, there was the evil of D&D.
It's true. Listen to Ozzy Osbourne and playing Dungeons and Dragons. That's how we do it.
Drinking Jolt Cola.
Exactly. I was looking through his filmography, and this is. Do you guys remember when he was on Family Ties? I don't know if we touched on this.
Yes, that bitch slap, man, is a great moment. And it's like one time it was like as a bosom buddies crossover, and then another time like as a different person or some shit. And
he played Elise's brother Ned, who had a drinking problem, and he was fun times Ned. Except later in the episode, he's drinking the juice out of the maraschino cherries, and when Alex tries to stop him, he smacks him. And there's a moment, it's a very special Family Ties. He goes, "I hit Alex." And that kind of drove him sober. So, yes, we knew he was special.
Alex needed a smack every now and then.
And then Tom Hanks went crazy apeshit.
That's what happens, man. I also want to say Saturday Night Live. I mean, he's hosted it 10 times.
Yeah.
Late 80s Tom Hanks was hilarious. Mr. Short-Term Memory. I mean, he's dynamite.
He is dynamite. He's acing it. So how many of his movies do you think rank in your top 10 or top 100?
Maybe top 100.
I'll be truthful. I mean, I go back to Splash and Bachelor Party. I liked Dragnet. That's how deep I go.
Sweet.
Obviously you got Big, the classic.
Big is a classic.
And then, of course, you got that back-to-back Academy Award winners. You got Philadelphia and Forrest Gump. Boom. First person who did that since Spencer Tracy, like in the 40s or whenever that was.
That's so boring.
Oh, stop.
What is your problem? Leave poor Tom Hanks alone.
Opinion.
I will be honest though, it's ever since Polar Express gave me nightmares.
Oh, Jesus.
I've been less enthusiastic.
I'm gonna have to push on that.
The lifeless eyes. Get on the train. Get on the. I'm not feeling it. I'm sorry, Tom. Big fan if you're listening, but I found that I was less in like the 80s and 90s. I'm in. Starting with the new year. The new millennium, I started to, I still go see his movies, but I'm not, Tom Hanks is in it, I'm rushing out.
Really? All right. Interesting. Well, you might like Finch or what's the other World War II movie?
Saving Private Ryan, right?
No. The new one he did.
Oh, you're right. He's got two. Yes. I enjoyed.
He's like 60s. He's still in the war.
He's playing a commander. It's not like he's fighting.
He's
but yeah, News of the World and Greyhound. Not a fan.
He's on the front line.
You didn't see the one where he played the pilot Sully or where he played Mr. Rogers?
I did. I saw them, and I actually enjoyed. Won't You Be My Neighbor? I enjoyed it, but it's much more of a movie about the disgruntled newspaper reporter,
right,
than it is about Fred Rogers. I enjoyed him in that. Go ahead.
Problem with that is they came out with that documentary right before that was superior.
That documentary is really good.
Oh my God, it makes you cry.
It absolutely makes you cry.
Tom Hanks is a robot compared to that.
Watch yourself there.
Boom.
Tom Hanks is America's sweetheart.
He has more charisma than most of today's actors. I'm just saying.
I mean, I would have sex with Tom Hanks. Don't get me wrong. But as far as acting, he might have to leave if it has to do with me watching more of these movies.
Oh,
But I
ridiculous.
did compile a list of movies I do like.
Go for it.
But they're
what is
not
wrong
my
with his
favorites.
acting? It doesn't have to be for it to be good.
Well, here's the difference between Tom Hanks and Kevin Costner.
Oh, God.
You like Tom Hanks. So it doesn't matter because you like him. You just naturally like him. So it doesn't matter that he's Tom Hanks in every role. Versus Kevin
Costner. Tom
Hanks
in every role.
Oh, Santa Maria. We're going to have to just agree that I am right. So...
Yeah. Well, this is why this is the intro and not the main.
Not the outro. My top 5 were Catch Me If You Can, Da Vinci, Sleepless in Seattle, Big, and Castaway.
You're going to put Da Vinci in front of all his other winners? Come on.
I thought it was very exciting.
Maybe the last one. There's not much action in the first one.
I have to say, I read all those books. And I was disappointed in the casting. And this is somebody who enjoys Tom Hanks, but in the book, he's described as Harrison Ford. Literally, they say he looks like Harrison Ford in a tweed suit.
Yeah, but Harrison would have just been typecast at that point. We needed something different. I mean, what would be the point? It wouldn't be any better than Indiana Jones. It would be a step down.
And he would have been 75 years old when Da Vinci Code came out as well. So, I mean, stipulated. But I don't see Tom Hanks as that kind of physical, kind of, solving the mystery. And his hair looked nuts in that movie. I don't know what they did to his hair. It frightened me. Almost as much as Polar Express's dead eyes.
Cold, dead eyes. Polar Express takes you to the Matrix. That's what it is.
Well, let's talk about one where he's actually impacted, like Apollo 13 or
Bonfire of the Vanities.
Why do people keep bringing that one up?
Because TCM just did a whole podcast on Bonfire of the Vanities, so it's all in my head.
Oh, dear.
We haven't even talked about Toy Story.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
Dynamite.
Voiceover.
That's
voiceover.
acting.
that's
Aye.
voice acting. But we're
Aye.
talking for the ones where we actually see him and we resonate with his character. But yes, when I did theater class, I did used to yell, "You are a toy," to people just to get them to concentrate.
Oh, I thought you were saying like on the street when you pass them.
Well, I hope I'm not that creepy guy yelling, "You are a toy." Yeah, you are a toy.
I'm sure they just thought you were yelling, "You are a tool," is what they thought you were saying.
Oh, that'd be amazing. So, what? Name at least your number one movie, both of you. Just
The number one Tom
have to
Hanks
pick one.
movie that I have bothered to see is Catch Me If You Can.
okay. But is it because of him?
No.
Damn it.
He's good in that though. He is
great
funny.
in it. I saw it because of him, not because of DiCaprio. I saw it because of him.
Poor DiCaprio. Leo, if you're listening, no offense. Favorite movie. I mean, I might go back to like Big, frankly.
Okay, so there you go. It's a
Although
timeless
it's a timeless classic. Although if it was a role reverse, like if it was a little girl who's put in a grown woman's body,
oh,
it's a little
God.
problematic.
Yeah.
little problematic.
Little
Me too is
disturbing.
gonna call and cancel this movie.
That's what I'm saying.
Cancel culture.
Big is dynamite. I do enjoy Forrest Gump. Apollo 13 is
Why do
great.
people like to hate on Forrest Gump nowadays? It seems like they think it's not sensitive or some shit. I mean, it's all a work of fiction based off a cynical book. So, I mean,
Yeah. And the book is different than the movie. He's a different kind of character.
there's more of a douche in the book than he is.
He is. No, I think.
I mean, when it first came out, I enjoyed it. I've seen it a couple of times, but I'm just sick of it. That's why it's not on the list. I care not to see it again. My top movies are movies I can see over and over again. I've seen Coal Miner's Daughter 10,000 times.
I mean, that's good, but I'm not going to watch it 10,000 times.
That's a lot, Aaron.
It's not nearly enough. It's one of those movies that if it's on, if I'm flipping the channels, oh, okay, we'll sit down.
It seems like you
catch it again.
guys tackle a lot of B movies. Have you at least seen He Knows You're Alone?
Oh, I read about this. I had never even heard of it. But when I was going through his
I've never heard
thing,
of it.
it's a slasher movie, and it was Tom Hanks' first movie.
Yeah. Before he was stabbing the guy he thought looked like a dragon in Mazes Monsters.
That's right.
He was a
The
suspect.
Dangers of Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, it was a what was it? It was like a wedding themed slasher movie where it's like people are being jilted and then the crazy ex comes and kills the bride to be as she's about to marry somebody else. Something like that. And
How else would you
no.
want it?
No one told me about this.
Everyone's told everyone about this.
The word is out.
So many
Why is-
articles.
Why is this not on our list? We can
I think we're
watch
gonna have to do it.
after Flesh for Frankenstein.
So you can't say you're not going to watch this movie.
we're doing it. Oh, now it's on the list. You just made the list, pal. Now we're definitely doing it. We're definitely doing it. But I'll tell you what, I still have like a soft spot in my heart for this old like Bachelor Party. If you haven't seen that, it's crazy seeing Tom Hanks in that because it's basically Porky's. It's that kind of movie with Tom Hanks.
A lowbrow movie.
Yeah. And Adrian Zemed, it's an all-star cast. Tawny
Adrian
Kitaen.
Zemed. Tawny Kitaen. Wow. That is the 80s.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah. And oh man. Well, thank you all for just doing a brief chime in on why you're going to check him out, regardless of whether the movie lives up to its hype. So let's talk a little bit about the podcast that won't die. Like, what was the inspiration for that? Like, clearly that's 50s B picture.
Yes, the name of the podcast. It does come from the brain that wouldn't die. But
Yes.
we don't discriminate. We will talk about from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and today. Any kind of horror or science fiction, classic or classic, air quotes. I have to. It's an audio medium. You have to say the air quotes. But yeah, we love those kind of movies. We don't always try to pick crappy movies, but it just sometimes happens all by itself. So
Do you
we're
talk
in.
about franchises that won't die, like Land Before Time or Children of the Corn or some shit like that?
We haven't watched either one of those.
Well, I'm not saying you should, but I'm just wondering.
I think we would do Children of the Corn. I think Land Before Time is an animated Don Bluth film about baby dinosaurs. I don't think we're hitting that one.
How ironic how he tried to make his movies not be owned by Disney, and yet Fox is now owned by Disney, so he lost.
There's no escape. There's no escape. So we're down. That's exactly right. All dogs go to heaven as well.
All dogs
Go to hell in Disney hell.
That's Burt Reynolds is the voice in All Dogs Go to Heaven, by the way, if you haven't seen it lately.
Did he talk shit about that movie too right after it was done?
What hasn't he talked shit about? I mean, I'm surprised Charlie Sheen hasn't talked shit about it. I was playing a dog, and I played a dog named Charlie.
We need more Tiger's blood.
That's right. Winning.
Winning. Hashtag winning. I'm bringing that back.
Faux show.
Faux show. Well, awesome. So this is quite an intro. So we're getting everyone in the mood. Does everyone love Tom Hanks, or do people secretly hate him? Let's find out later.
I just think he's overly important all the time. He can't just be. He has to be like this overreaching, super fantastic good guy, which I find so annoying. It's like
Hold on. He's played villains.
He was in Lady Killers.
That's his old school. Now he's an icon.
No, in Cloud Atlas, he's one of many different personas, and in one of them, he plays an author who throws a guy to his death. It's the most hysterical moment in the entire movie because you don't expect it.
I did take a pass on Cloud Atlas.
I just Googled it. It is considered his worst film ever.
By no one ever.
But by the internet.
By Rex Reed.
By Rex Reed.
Then why does it have a good critical score and audience score? So
I often scratch my head, but usually it's like, what do you mean it's only a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes? This movie's genius. That's usually how it goes.
I saw it in theaters, and it was fucking great. So,
It's like Halle Berry. Who else is in that?
everybody.
Hugo
Hugo Weaving,
Grant.
Keith David. It's a fun
Keith
reincarnation
David.
fantasy.
Now
type
I'm
film.
in.
Yeah.
Not
I love
David
Keith David.
Keith.
Not David Keith. Keith David.
Keith David.
I love Keith David.
It's great. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of dark humor moments, and even some mild cyberpunkness. And I can see why the Wachowskis later made Sense8 for Netflix. It was just a fun escapade.
And Jupiter Rising, wasn't that another?
Yeah, it's better than that one.
Did you see the new Matrix movie?
I unfortunately did. Yeah.
Unfortunately, wham!
I love the trilogy, but I didn't know what to make of that one. So
Did Tom Hanks reprise the Keanu Reeves role?
that would have been amazing had he done so. Might have liked it better.
Look, I love Tom Hanks. I'm going to go on the record. I think he is dynamite. I think even like slandering his name with Kevin Costner is a bridge too far, or a bridge of spies, if you will.
Yeah. I'm about to say, I mean, Costner's don't like it or hate it. Guy who does baseball and westerns movies. So, I mean, why would you even? How did we even get to that comparison?
She doesn't like Kevin Costner. Is basically what it is. She thinks he plays the same, or anyone. Exactly. Clearly.
I have my list.
Who's your list? Is it someone from Twilight?
Well, first of all, Sean Connery can do no wrong.
Sure, he
I love
can.
Sean Connery.
Oh.
In his personal
but
life.
He's at his dud. No, I'm not even going there. I'm talking a few. He's done a few duds.
See, you can't even think of one. You're stretching while you Google.
Yes, I can. And I love League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but come on, The Avengers from '98, that's pretty bad.
Zardoz is a classic.
Oh, yeah, classically bad. Yep.
Everybody's got their share of stinkers. I will say that.
That's true.
Just as
You know?
Eric Roberts. I say that as a fan.
Oh, Star 80. You can't go
Just
back
say
to
that as
Star
a
80.
fan. I'm just
I know.
saying.
I always feel bad. I feel bad for Eric Roberts. He liked one of Kevin's tweets one time, so he's our mascot.
He did.
He's your
Well,
mascot.
I was talking trash about The Specialist, talking about how seriously how Sly Stallone and Sharon Stone hated each other, and how Rod Steiger's accent was borderline offensive, and he liked my tweet and said, "Ha ha."
Oh my god!
Isn't that crazy?
You do know he's Mr. Cue Cards.
Oh, is he really?
He's now Mr. Marlon Brando, and some people think he's earned, and other people are like, "Man, dude, know your fucking lines. I'm not holding this for you."
That's the least you can do as an actor, right? Learn the lines, pal. Come on.
Learn the
I
lines.
can't even remember the reason I like him. I saw some weird things, like he was a guest and he's overly sweaty. So he was being talked to while somebody was blow drying his shirt under his armpits, and they sent the assistant off to get maxi pads that they were going to tape on the inside of his shirt. I was like, okay, this guy's pretty funny. He's allowing himself to have the assistant blow dry his armpit stains.
Tom Hanks doesn't have these kind of stories. Okay,
He doesn't sweat.
Which
He
is
doesn't
great.
shit. He's just an icon.
he's an angel down from heaven. That's all we need to say.
All right, welcome to the show. Here we got in front row film roast Andrew Sproge.
Hey, fantastic. I'm excited to be here. Talk about T. Hanks.
Mm-hmm. Jonathan Mark, the Action Late.
What's up?
All right, and Jay Ledbetter.
Absolutely. Look, excited to talk about like the swaddle of human beings. You know, you're in good hands with Tom Hanks. So I'm very excited to talk about him.
He killed a guy. No one cared. Oh, so I'll start us off. John, you're a giant SNL fan. Is Tom Hanks still the best recurring SNL host?
He's easily in the top 5, if you ask me.
Okay, sweet. But is he the best?
Close to it, that's what I'd say.
Close enough. So Sproge, does he deserve all these awards, or is he just preying on our emotions?
No, he is fantastic, especially when he won the Oscars back to back. Like, those parts were such different characters in Philadelphia, and then obviously Forrest Gump. Like, that's when he really came on the scene as like, holy shit, this guy's not just funny in movies.
He's not
he
dicking
can
around.
make me cry, right? Like, man, I feel now having watched this.
I'm telling you, I very rarely see anyone attempt to hate him, and it seems like if they did not like him for whatever reason, they just, I don't know, they're killjoys. They don't like things that make them feel any kind of emotion or
No, he's America's dad. Like, how can you hate him? He's like all, we all look up to him. We all want to please Tom Hanks in our lives. At least that's how I feel.
Totally. It's a weird predicament. So altogether, what makes you so Jay, when you see any of his movies, what makes you go, I'm gonna see it? And it's not just out of principle or the fact that I like the guy. Like, I just know he knows how to pick them.
Well, honestly, I don't even know if he knows how to pick them anymore. The thing about Tom Hanks now is that he kind of just works. Like, he'll do The Circle, which is a bad movie that I'm sure nobody else is going to bring up at any point. But it's not like now where he's like, I'm just going to do like Oscar movies that I'm sure are going to be nominated for Oscars. He'll do The Circle. He'll do Finch, which, by the way, Finch rocks. I don't know if anybody has seen Finch.
Great Apple TV movie.
But it was just like, it's like Tom Hanks and a half CGI dog and a robot, and that's the whole movie. And you just know that it's going to have integrity because Tom Hanks is in it. You just know when Tom Hanks is attached to a project, he's going to elevate that project. Like, Big is like a problematic nightmare, and yet you're like, wow, this movie is so entertaining and fun and sincere because Tom Hanks brings that to the film. He's just a guy, you just know you're in good hands when Tom Hanks is in a movie.
I want to be part of his military platoon, and I don't care.
Absolutely.
I don't care if he's playing, Captain Miller from Saving Private Ryan, or Forrest Gump himself and Nam, or
Get another captain, Sullenberger.
There you go, or Captain Phillips, or Sully.
Yes.
Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, I don't mind. I know that aside from mastering the authority figure role, I just know that he's going to make a wise judgment call, and it's not out of any formulaic principle. No, sir. It's out of the fact that only he can play these kinds of roles that are everyday people. I mean, I'm a school teacher, so it's like,
or at least nobody can play the roles as well as he can, because like military, like stand-up guy is not an uncommon role. Tom Hanks is just better at it than everybody else, right?
He fell in love with a mermaid. He told Tim Allen he is.
Well, that's what's so weird about him. He started out as a comedy, like a broad comedy person. Right. He starred in whatever that sitcom was called. I can't
Bosom Buddies.
That's right. And then he does
Happy
Splash,
Days,
and he does
exactly.
What's the one about the Money Pit? Which is like not a good movie, but he elevates that movie by himself.
He's so likable that it's worthwhile just because of who he inherently is. I love what you said earlier, Jay, about Big. We roasted that live here in LA like 2 months ago, and that's exactly what we talked about, is what you just said. The only reason it's okay is because it's Tom Hanks. If it's anyone else, it is this weird, perverted movie, but somehow it's a
and somehow classic. It's like a near masterpiece. Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean,
said it so perfectly.
Party. Anyone else in that?
Bachelor Party. That's one I have not seen. I admit to not having seen Bachelor Party.
Yeah, it could have gone so many bad ways, and it's just another one of those where I think also, but no, I think you guys really are agree, and I've seen many talk about this before. I think he realized, okay, so I can be the straight man in these dorky comedies, and then 3 strikes and I'm out. The jokes. Then I'm typecast, and I'm not going to be typecast.
Mm-hmm.
I will not allow myself that. And I concur. I think you guys summed up that he really did get serious. It's like the 80s were ending. I think also just being part of like 2 different, movies about the stand-up scene, including, Volunteers, kind of gave him an idea of how precious stand-up is. And he's like, hey, I'm an actor. I don't want to be living on the road like an actual stand-up comic, waiting for my next gig, and then get there and I'm frustrated and I got no jokes to share. And I mean, anytime I've even see him, being interviewed or talking about acting or how he picks anything, it's hardly a predictable answer anyone could have handled or thought of. And, even when he did overwork with the Spielberg or Ron Howard train, or Zemeckis for that matter, is like, he's invincible for me. It's like, in like,
well, there's
you see it, you don't need to see it again. Force Apollo 13, I've seen so many damn times, and that many times, but I've seen it a bunch of times. And I mean, like you guys are saying, he makes other just cameos in like even a Borat thing. I totally did not recognize him in that one Yellowstone prequel episode. But yeah, I mean, he's been in other things too. Like, again, like just a Hologram for the King, The Terminal, the Lady Killers remake, Saving Mr. Banks. I mean, he played a real bastard, Walt Disney. But yeah, he does have that certain innocence to him, and you never feel like he's just lost in the scene, or that he just, even when he had such a big acting family, he's just like, yeah, he's just another dude earning his wages, and he's just so naturally soaked up the likability to where he has to also make that work. And I mean, I wasn't crazy about Charlie Wilson's War, but I understand why he picked that.
The man has flaws in his career as far as films are concerned, but I think he has eras, right? Like he starts out with the Bosom Buddies, and it's like he's going to be just another like bro comedy guy with Bachelor Party and whatever. And then Big comes out and you're like, oh, this guy like contains multitudes. He somehow took this really high concept, again, like really out there, couldn't work in anybody else's hands performance. And it's like, this guy's got some juice to him. Then Philadelphia comes out and you're like, okay, this guy's like a capital A actor.
He's a star. Yes.
Yeah. This guy's a leading man. And then, of course, that goes through with Forrest Gump and all that stuff.
I think that movie not only helped people like Denzel and Antonio Banderas, but yeah, Philadelphia was interesting. It's like, okay, I'm the lead, but I'm hardly going to be just, the guy who gets out unscathed. It's like, no, I'm going to be in this movie the entire time, with, shaving my head or, forcing a cancer cough. And
well, think about doing an AIDS movie in 1993. Like people were very upset about that movie even existing at all. And it's almost like it's a no-brainer to do Jonathan Demme's follow-up to Silence of the Lambs, but also it's an AIDS movie, and people were pissed off about that in 1993 or whenever that movie came out. And for him to take on that role is really him establishing like, I'm willing to go there and be that dramatic actor. And then that leads to Forrest Gump and Apollo 13 and all that stuff in the 90s where he is the biggest movie star on earth, not only as a dramatic actor, but those romantic comedies too with Sleepless in Seattle. And
we haven't talked about it. Holy shit. Yeah, those are huge in the zeitgeist.
Yeah, those are what chicks often, talk about him for. But no, that's so true. And I mean, even movies like Nothing in Common and The Man with One Red Shoe get rediscovered because he's just done so many movies for different production companies. And I mean, there's plenty of people who hate watch Mazes and Monsters, the Dungeons and Dragons.
It's like second movie.
Still waiting for the reevaluation of Bonfire of the Vanities. I know it's coming. Somebody's going to reclaim that movie, but for now, it remains an absolute disaster.
He Knows You're Alone will come first, but no, I know what you mean. It is one of those where he has so many films that even when they don't hit, there's always a bunch of people for it. He was on Conan about a year and a half ago, and he was like, if there's anything I could delete from my YouTube resume, I want to get rid of that damn music video Dan Aykroyd and I did for Dragon. Watch the movie and enjoy it, but what the hell are we doing with that music video? And I mean, come on. He took on a volcano.
Right.
A bunch of psychos in a suburb and trained a female baseball team, so I think he can do just about anything.
He was a detective with a dog partner. He can make it work and make it work.
He was a gangster. He hunted down Leo DiCaprio. That takes balls. That's pretty good.
But so much of what makes him work as well is his public persona. He's just the most likable guy in the world. It's like you cannot root against Tom Hanks. You watch, you think about a guy like Mel Gibson, who I think is one of the most captivating movie presences, like the greatest movie stars I've ever seen. You are kind of like, but he's got this baggage attached to him. It's you take that
everything's shaded now, right?
So many other actors have had like a meltdown, and you're wondering. Again, we treat him like a rock star all of a sudden, and that sucks because they don't.
Nobody took COVID seriously until Tom Hanks got COVID. Remember that?
You are holy shit, Jay! You're blowing this wide open.
That's so true. I saw so many people doing the whole America's granddad. If he dies, then I don't want to go outside anymore. I'm like, man, yeah, it's true. But it is interesting, yeah. I mean, and it helps that he'll literally do like 2 to 3 movies a year, and
the dude works now. He's just like, I like working. He's not doing the Daniel Day-Lewis thing where he's doing only prestige. He'll be in some anonymous Apple TV Plus movie.
Yeah,
and he will elevate it.
Yeah, I'll say I'll make my own movie too.
And even his recent stuff, I would see him,
or
do
2 anonymous Apple Plus. Greyhound too, another good movie.
Yes,
Greyhound's good.
Greyhound was really excellent. If you want to see him play different personas in just one movie, where he's just playing mirror universes of certain characters who kind of get reincarnated, Cloud Atlas is a good start.
Yes,
Cloud Atlas. The movie's wild.
It's wild. Yeah,
it's wild. I
love it or hate it, but it's wild. And he's wild in it too.
And I mean, Larry Crown got harped on, but I kind of see why he wanted to do that. He wanted to just kind of do what he done with That Thing You Do instead of make a period piece. Just do a middle-aged teacher who wants to do something with his life. And it was one of those, I think the audience just expected instant comedy. And he was just kind of just going more, haha. And it wasn't really a bluntly funny, but it was just more just, it's just an easygoing crowd pleaser. So, I mean, I would hardly say this is the worst movie of all time. Now, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, he gets away with that one because he's just the title of dad who
they put his name in there. They needed his prestige.
Let me ask you this. What's your favorite Hanks mode? There's rom-com Hanks, there's comedy Hanks, there's prestige Hanks.
I'm so glad I invited you to this. This is great because can you even sum up his style? Because it seems like after the 80s.
Well, he's got so many different speeds, but I feel like everybody should have kind of their favorite.
I mean,
I agree. Yeah,
I like dad movie Hanks. I like Bridges Spies Hanks. I like Saving Private Ryan Hanks. That's my
so Road to
preferred.
Perdition. You're cool with him?
Well, Road to Perdition, that's almost like a one-off speed for him, kind of the bad guy Hanks. It feels like really him straying away.
Yeah, because like the Lady Killers.
Lady Killers and Road to Perdition are like bad guy Hanks. But I like the post Hanks where it's just like he's giving me a nice warm cinematic hug. That's the Hanks I like.
No, that's interesting because it seems like he kind of just, I think after Philadelphia and especially Apollo 13, he realized how he could. Again, he had to know he was bringing people's butts into seats, and I think, I guess, that's such a great question because I can't. Even when he goes into familiar kind of comedy territory, he doesn't approach it the same way, and I don't think he wants to. I think he does deliberately put himself that way, even when, because again, everyone's going to say yes to working with him. Who doesn't want to work with him? But at the same time, yes, it's just like, I think after Joe and especially Bachelor Parley and the Burbs, I think by that point, I was really surprised when I didn't even see him pop up in something like Free Amigos or Wayne's World. He just had that kind of, he's going to pop up in just about anything and he's going to kill it. So I think definitely by the early 90s, he got to that point where it's like, he didn't not take it seriously, but at that point he also kind of realized you can be just as good as the movie, or you can tell everyone else, hey, this guy, he believes in your project, so you better compliment. So I think if anything, once he held, they always say whoever gets attached to a project, like it becomes that kind of movie. Like if it's Schwarzenegger movie, then it's an Arnold movie, and it feels like an Arnold movie. So I think he definitely had, because he wasn't a Stallone kind of attitude, or like Bruce Willis is today, where he's like, line please, I just got one day to develop this and I forgot my lines.
He doesn't have the earpiece in while he's saying his lines. He's not being fed his lines,
or a body double or photo double. Yeah, I think he is a sincere, nice guy, and
he's willing to be directed too. Like he lets Spielberg say, this is the movie I want you to make. It's not like, and I hate throwing shade at this actor, but like Will Smith in King Richard. Will Smith directed King Richard, right? Like that was like, okay, I'm going to be in this movie and I'm going to make this movie to make me look as good as humanly possible. Tom Hanks is like, I'll be this worn down person, or in a movie like Catch Me If You Can, I'll be the number 2 in this movie. I just want to make the best movie
possible. When's the last time you saw him curse, and say something other than shit? It's like, and no, I think that's true too. I think he just did a quick reevaluation and said, what are you comfortable displaying on screen? Because otherwise, get out now. This is not the job for you. And I think he just had a kind of fearlessness. He's like, literally, I mean, you come to work, you become a character, and then, you treat people, like like you would
He's
any
just so
profession.
sincere. It feels like you can, like, it comes off the screen.
The
I think
worst
that's a
he
big
had to do was spit in someone's face or just kick them for giving him the wrong kind of avocado or French toast. It's like, so I think he saw all kinds of other stars growing around him too, and I think he didn't even want to be like that. The last thing he wanted to be was, say, maybe John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. He didn't want to be, John Wayne, even, where he carries a movie in a giant, expensive epic. I think he wanted to he wanted to be an invaluable person that interpret the role and, try and make everyone's life a little easier, and, bring some donuts to set, bring some cheer and everything. Smile, it's just,
he wants to be he wants to do the best job that he can in the role that he is assigned, right? Like Bridge of Spies, a movie I absolutely adore. He wasn't the one that won the Oscar for that movie. Mark Rylance was the one who everybody came out of that movie
and
being
you
like,
don't see
wow,
him
what an
doing
incredible performance. And I think Hanks is incredible in that movie. But it is like Mark Rylance was really the standout. Or Catch Me If You Can too, where he might be the second person you think of when you think about Catch Me If You Can. But he gave his all to that role, and he's such an essential piece of why that movie works as well as it does.
Oh, totally. And yeah, that's so true. You've never heard a single sign where he was like, yeah, but I deserved it. Or, it just acted like everything. You never even seen him do any kind of Forbes interview where he's like, everything I did, they owe it to me, or something like that. Yeah. And I think he realized it was a group effort. And you mentioned Greyhound. He mentioned too how he interpreted that like doing an episode of Star Trek. He was just like, okay, so again, we are visually. He already kind of had a mild historian kind of angle to him, and I think
that's very much his thing. Band of Brothers.
He took a pay cut. He literally got paid like, I think his lowest for the day, he would be making like $400.
I mean, that's crazy because he's in such financial trouble at this point. He's barely hanging on.
We all need to donate to the Hanks Fund.
We haven't even talked about his most lucrative role, which is Woody from Toy Story.
Yeah, anyone else would have probably just said, man, I don't want to do live action anymore, and just done, because there's so many guys who, talented or not, you just kind of feel like, come on, man, I know you can do more than just a voiceover. And he did the voices overs, but even on occasion, he would try different kinds of cartoons or voices, but then he'd also, I mean, I think even SNL just was telling him, hey, play a different persona. I mean, the David Pumpkins is a constant meme right now. And
that's
like
now
my
like one of his most
sketch.
famous roles.
Amazing. It's so
like,
funny.
That's in the canon of Tom Hanks.
It only works if Tom Hanks is him. You can't stick anybody else there that week. Elon Musk couldn't have been David Pumpkins that week.
He said that he didn't even know what it was about, but
he went for it.
He's like, fuck it, whatever. Like, we'll go for it.
I will say,
I think he
Elon
gets that
Musk
it's
is
pretend.
no Tom Hanks. I'll go that far.
No, he's not.
I don't think Elon Musk is much of anything. So anyway, I would love to see Tom Hanks in the Elon Musk biography. That would be hysterical, because then he would basically perfectly sum up how the man is a narcissist or everything, and he would have no problem doing that. And it seems like there are so many actors on his level who are comfortable doing that kind of thing, where they just drop on in and they, again, they do acting 101, which is defend what your character wants, even if they're a bad guy. And I think, nowadays, again, you're talking Daniel Day-Lewis earlier. I think so many people, again, they just feel like they gotta just, even speaking, in character tongue just isn't enough. It's like they gotta just freak people out or just do some other kind
He's
of
not
method
precious
acting.
about his career, which I love.
Totally. And I've seen people describe Denzel Washington or even Vincent D'Onofrio as method actors, but they're the right kind of method actors. They're like Michael Ironside, where they show up and they just, again, they talk to it, like their character all the time. They don't, but if a director has something or some makeup needs to be applied, or, someone else takes them to the side, they're not going to just be creeping people out or, refusing to acknowledge them or insisting they speak to their assistant. next to him. It's just like, yeah,
fingers crossed, just absolutely zero accusations and in Tom Hanks's direction at this point. I mean, if that happens, the world will cave in on itself.
The Onion News, anytime something happens, they always post an article literally saying that, like, just reminding you Tom Hanks hasn't done anything, so it's okay.
Right. He hasn't pulled a Bill Cosby and fooled everyone for 20 plus years.
And the day that happens is the day that I don't even know what happens. I'll have to just sit in a corner and contemplate existence the day that happens, because he has been America's dad for 30 years. He has such a sterling reputation with just about his approval rating as far as like Hollywood actors goes has to be as close to 100 as anybody's is.
Right.
Yeah, he's just like the guy that everybody loves. He's
if he goes
impossible not
down,
to like.
then we all can go down. We're all like susceptible.
Yeah.
If Tom Hanks, then that would be a game changer.
And isn't it kind of wild how so many other comedians have way more baggage, and you're just not going to see him in any couples therapy or mental health. It seems like he's just done so many things.
The worst thing he's ever done was given birth to Chet Hanks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's the blemish on his
At least
resume.
Colin's a nice guy, but yeah, I mean, if all I got is one, many kids, and only one of them is ungrateful for his existence in this world, I think I've done pretty good as a dad.
Well, let's go around the horn. Favorite Tom Hanks performance?
I mean, I'll go first, but I'll say it. Yeah, there's so many, but it's one we haven't talked about actually, and this is the one that makes me cry like the most when I watch it. Is Castaway, because I just
Castaway, amazing.
He's
At the end,
the reason it works.
Yeah, that movie doesn't. The movie hardly doesn't even exist if like he's not in it. I mean, it's amazing.
Right. He's
80% of the
And Zemeckis was just getting so spoiled at that point, wanting to try out visual effects, and other than Flight, I can't think of any movie. I think everyone's more used to just rewatching the whole Back to the Future for the billionth time.
Zemeckis needs to retire. His best movie is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But,
so there you go.
But it is the crazy thing about Castaway is they filmed the first half, and then Zemeckis made an entire movie, and then they filmed the second half. He made What Lies Beneath between the filming of the first half of Castaway and the second half of Castaway.
I think I did hear about that. He had to lose weight, but I didn't know.
Yeah, Hanks had to lose all the weight for the
they had all that time.
The island scenes.
I see.
And I think everyone can applaud Hanks for doing something like that, because everyone else, they love to do it with every role they were doing. I'm like, no, that's too much. That's so much rehab and everything and workout plans. But I think that's just it. He did a few challenges here and there, but he also knew, don't do it if you cannot commit. And I think I don't know how he was raised and everything. That's kind of, hard, but I think that's just it. I think he had a whole do or die kind of mentality. Is like, okay, when you sign on for this, and you hear all the time about how he still, disguises himself going to a public place. And I think that's just it too. I think he found that no different than hiding from the paparazzi. It's like, just, you're going to put on different hats, different shoes, and go on a journey. But I mean, I love what I adore what you all are summing up in that I'm sure he couldn't even tell you what his favorite role is. Is it The Green Mile? Is it Big?
What's yours, Cam? Cam, what was yours?
I'm going to go with Apollo.
You have to choose.
I'm going to go with Apollo 13 because he's like the only person bigger than that rocket, than that spaceship. Because, I mean, and it's an ensemble movie, It's kind of a throwback to giant 50s Technicolor films while being a cool historical docudrama, real-life sci-fi film. And they didn't have to do much. They already knew how to act, Even the all-star cast is great. Bill Paxton, Kevin Bacon, Kathleen Quinlan. But, I mean, he just has his little just subtleties in his other scenes where he looks like he belongs and he believes in his heart he's going to probably crash once he re-enters, and he does that without being whiny or playing to the camera. Anyone else would probably go for that and be like, you'd have the James Camerons of the world, saying, oh, no, don't do that, and again, Ron Howard was already an actor, turned director, but I mean, that's got to be an interesting experience where you're just reminding everyone, hey, places, scene, go. And that was also a taxing thing. I'm sure he didn't get the full description of, hey, you're going to have to do some actual like NASA simulations in addition to making this movie. But I think he also realized this is a great investment. Everyone wins. I'm telling an important story. I'm becoming a historical figure, and I'm educating people while still being a pretty giant blockbuster movie. And all I got to do is, I think it's also, all his roles are just very easy to play to too. They're not easy, but they're also, in a way, they really do write themselves. And I think,
see, no, I disagree. I think,
well, okay, yes, he's done some.
He plays a lot of small
play,
characters that he elevates off of the page because of his performances.
Like, well, no, I agree with that too. What I was really trying to mean is that some of the stuff, it's there on the paper. If his ego was just so off, he would not be able. He probably would have had a falling out with some filmmaker or just not gotten something done. I think he knew what he signed up for. He took a good long look and read the fine print of every role he's done, and
also willing to give himself over to a role. He has no vanity. That's what I love about Tom Hanks. He had to do some
serious research too. Yeah, it's like, yeah, this is going to take a lot out of you. And I don't mean like in just crushing your spirit, but like it just means you have to do. I think whoever his acting teacher was, especially when he was on Inside the Actors Studio, I think he also just summed up, you're going to have to do some serious, just, acknowledgement of what your character's doing. Mm-hmm. You're doing a mental journey as well as a physical journey. I think he realized anything could go bad, and it's not necessarily your fault. It could be, but I think he must have had a good agent too, who was sheltering certain projects, saying, oh, you got to be a big part of this movie. This is very highly anticipated. And
right.
You guys also summed up perfectly. There were plenty of times where he could have, done a typical, well, I'll only do this if I'm the first or second or third build. And there's plenty of other ones where he does like a voice cameo or something. And it's like, no small luck, no bad feet. And I think he just analyzes his voice too, because there's plenty of times like I recognize that Tom Hanks, but that's not the same kind of Tom Hanks. And I think that's not easy to do for other actors too. Other actors feel, oh, well, I'll do that take again. They get too self-aware. And I think he just realizes, you are getting paid to play pretend,
Oh, for sure. Like he's a literal child grown up like Big. He just stayed the same.
That would be a funny story if he said that. Is like, I realized I was aging in reverse and I took a good long look in the mirror. That would be funny.
Yeah, if he said that the greatest influence on his career was playing big, and that is the mindset that he has maintained from then on. It honestly kind of sounds about right. I don't know. Sounds kind of Hanksy.
It fits.
But he's in this been doing like it's kind of weird seeing him play Mr. Rogers. Right?
Yeah. But when that was announced, I saw how they tried to age him. It's like, I can't blame him for doing that.
He's great in the movie.
Totally. And I mean, even if you don't see a certain movie he comes out with, I mean, he always kills it just in the clip alone. And I think that is rare, because there's plenty of times where, oh, no, I got to see the whole uncut film, or at least the uncut scene. And I think, yeah, I mean, whoever his agents were, they knew what a kind of a easy to make poster child he could be. And that, again, you don't necessarily have to look a certain way, but you can evolve a certain way, become just one with the material. Something about it speaks within him. Otherwise, why would he have done it? And so, I mean, even occasionally when I've seen people do the whole inevitable, oh, he's overrated, it's very rare. a lot of people who I've seen, be the toxic ends of the internet acting like he's a terrible actor have just come off as ones who just are fed up with predictable Hollywood trends, and so they just put him on that list. That is as far as I've gone in anyone bad mouthing him, and it just seems like
Certainly not.
I think he's been able to navigate even any kind of predictable formula, though. In all fairness, because again, like you said, I totally forgot about The Circle, and it was one of those. I didn't blame anyone for it. It's just it didn't work. And Bonfire of the Vanities would be interesting if they were to do like a anniversary screening. I guarantee you, he would probably show up do a commentary track.
I'm waiting for that movie to be like reclaimed by the film Twitter people and be like, this movie is actually like secretly kind of a masterpiece. I'm waiting for it. Hasn't happened yet, but
and I think it helped that again he's on good behavior. So if a movie tanked, it was never because of him. It was never because of him, giving some notes.
Bonfire of the Vanities is a movie I have not seen. I have heard one of the biggest complaints being how miscast he was in that movie. So
yeah, and I'm sure he knew it too. And at the same time,
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that was him trying to redefine himself. That was pretty early, where he was like, "Take me seriously," and then obviously later we took him seriously. So,
What was your favorite movie, Jay? Was it Bridge of Spies?
I mean, my favorite. I think as far as elevating the material, I think Big is like his greatest value add performance. But I think the best movie he's ever been in is actually Catch Me If You Can. I think that is a top like 3 or 4 Spielberg movie. And I think he is so important to that film working. And I think his ability to let DiCaprio be the movie star in that movie is part of why that movie works so well. It just goes, it speaks to his selflessness as a performer. I just love that movie so much.
I think it keeps getting played because, I mean, first off, it's an interesting true crime movie, but it's also a Frank Capra-esque styled movie. So I think that's just it. He can complement any kind of style, and he's just got to look the part, and he can, he knows how it all happens where people are looking at it and saying, how about we try this kind of persona or this kind of angle? He knows it can misfire anytime, anywhere. So you got to do as many takes, and everyone's bacon is saved, whether it's the lighting needs to concentrate a little more or they got to do a reshoot on a different day when it's not raining, and I think he must have just been paying just massive detail, just wanting to get better, challenging himself, because you never heard anything about him, again, just joking too much with people on set and forgetting his lines all the time. And that could have easily happened with anyone. There's plenty of comedians who weren't ready to be actors. There were plenty of, other people who were actors, but they should be a different kind of actor. Like they should be a scream queen. They should be an action movie guy. And
also,
think,
Steven Spielberg, pretty good director in my opinion. So that helps as well. It's like America's Dad director and America's Dad actor. They were
nailed
made
it
for each other.
But no, I mean, you mentioned Vanities. That's De Palma, and I think,
but doesn't De Palma and Hanks just seem like an inherent mismatch? It just doesn't seem like those two things should go together.
I mean, in any ways, I think it's just De Palma just testing something out and not realizing,
that's kind of his thing. He's made like 50 movies, and he's just like, I'm going to try this now.
All right, you should go back to doing a Hitchcock themed, mystery movie.
Yeah, that's basically what he's been doing his whole career. I'm going to make a Hitchcock-esque movie, but it's going to have more sex in it.
Yeah, Sleaze City, baby. But no, I think that's true too. I think, he's been in movies that could easily be the filmmaker's best or the filmmaker's worst, or it's just okay. It's a like it or hate it. And I think, again, that like all the people we've covered on here, at most, they don't let their restrictions sum up who they are or what they can or can't do. I think he's clearly done his homework. He's clearly wanted to challenge himself and embrace what value acting has. And so, again, if anyone doesn't like him, it's just pure jealousy at this rate. And he's just proven you right about anything that could go wrong with fame and fortune. And I mean, he could lose all his money tomorrow to a Bernie Madoff type, and you would feel sorry for him because you feel like he's earned it, as opposed to, you know, oh, well, you'll just sell your house, you'll be fine, darling. You know, it's just it says a lot for someone who's, again, famous, to just feel like he just resonates with every kind of audience. You know,
we all have a degree of attachment to Tom Hanks, the human being, in ways that like no modern movie star has that sort of equity with the American public. And that speaks to his likability, not only on screen, but just like in general. He's America's dad.
That's what makes the movies like even more sad, is like when I'm watching Tom Hanks cry, I'm even more sad because I'm like, no, Tom Hanks, like I don't want you to cry or
I don't
whatever.
want
So
you
that now I'm even
crying.
more.
Yeah.
That's
like,
so
I'm even
true.
more connected.
Freaking has everyone here seen Finch from last
No.
year?
No, not
Finch made me cry so hard. I cried more watching that movie than I have in years.
That's what my sister did not want to watch it. I'm like, you should totally see this. And she didn't believe me. And I'm like, well, see, this is a very well thought out movie. And like you say, it could have easily been a misfire, but I think
the people that he's acting against are not. It's a CGI robot, and most of the time a CGI dog. And yet I was so invested in that freaking movie. I was blown away by how invested I was.
And he stays in his lane. He knows all kinds of technology. He embraces it. He loves what film can do versus, you know, regular film versus digital. He realizes it will evolve and everyone just needs to do their part. And the last thing he needs to do is hold up production due to creative differences. You're never going to hear him, you know, he's good at picking everyone's brain and knowing what it entails instead of, you know, Variety got a hold of, oh, angry Tom Hanks phone call with producer, you know, so-and-so, you know, you're not going to hear that. You're not going to hear.
I mean, and what transcends like
creative
the film versus digital debate, which is a debate to be had. And I, in general, think that film has, like, my opinion on film versus digital is that film has a lower floor, but great digital can be as good as great film. Is kind of like where I stand on it. But what transcends film or digital? Great performances.
Oh, totally.
And Hanks is like, no matter what medium I'm working with, I'm just going to give the best performance, and it works almost every freaking time.
It works every time. And I mean, if anything, yeah, people were complaining about identity, you know, film taking longer to develop and everything, and digital being so cheaply used at times and not covering up mistakes. They both have their pros and cons. And I think, yeah, if anything, he just embraced anything, even if it involved green screen or technology. And I think, like you say, he realized, you know, he must have just studied just regular noir as a kid, where the oldest trick in the book is an actor against a lit screen. You know, it's just the most you can do is just feel like you don't want to actually be there. And, you know, again, no one knows if something's going to work or not. So I think if anything, he just realized that the last thing you need to be is just the guy who made everyone's life hell, who was too picky about what kinds of roles he wanted to pick. I can't think of anyone who said, hey, you know, I doubt he would do this kind of role. Because like you guys have all illustrated, he's done so many movies with different kinds of budgets, and he can do that without losing his net worth or coming off as if it's an example of favoritism or, oh, I'll help you out, but just because you're a friend. You know, it's like I think he wanted to be, again, he was a people person, and he also wanted to be a creative person. He wanted to be the only time he's probably going to step down and just say, hey man, you know, been a great run, but I'm retired, is if he literally just is just getting up there in that age, you know, and just said, hey, you know, I've given my all that I got to offer you, but who knows? Has he done everything he has to offer? You know, because again, we keep being surprised, and we keep
He's got another like 3 movies coming out this year.
Yeah, and like you say, when you're comparing him with other, famous people, I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis is his own oyster, and Will Smith, if anything, has restructured himself so many different ways, and I think Hanks just always had a clear path. It just, have a gentleman's agreement, shake hands, and hold up your end of the bargain.
It's also nice to be like a nice guy on set, but Tom Hanks is also like a freaking great actor. Like, let's not act like the success in his career is entirely due to him being like a good guy. He's also an amazing performer who has such subtlety in all of the things that he does on screen and is willing to give himself over to the movies that he's in. He's just so talented, incredibly talented.
That's what makes it even more nice when you realize how generous and all that he is, because you go, wow, he has so much talent, and yet he still treats people this way and acts this way when theoretically he wouldn't have to if he didn't want to, but that's just how genuine he is.
He's done even just small kinds of roles, like in Radio Flyer, it wasn't uncommon for him to show up and like make a special appearance as someone's, on-scene estranged dad, or like their grown-up version of themselves, or the narrator, and he could have taken that shtick to the bank, but he kept finding different projects that really innovate everyone. And yes, those other roles I think are good at that. I mean, look at The Terminal. He chose to do a very accident role in a dramedy, Yeah,
don't love that movie, but it's him and Spielberg.
I didn't think I would like it. I've seen it a few other times. I think it was just not an easy to market movie, and it just wasn't easy to sum up either. It's like people didn't know if they'd get a drama or a comedy. It's kind of a little bit of everything. But
yeah, I think that it's tonally kind of a hodgepodge. You know what people just never talk about? What movies just don't exist? The Da Vinci Code movies. Just nobody ever talks about them.
Yes.
Those are his action movies. He made 3 of them.
We wanted to see him do so many action movies outside of just running around in a jungle. And yeah, I mean, by the 3rd time I felt like he nailed it, but it was kind of just too late. And again, those were with Ron Howard and Brian Grazer, and Dan Brown was hot shit when he came out, and now he's pretty infamous. Everyone's like, kind of gives them the cold shoulder like they would kind of the James Patterson or Daniel Stills of the world, where they're like, oh, come on, not how it works. But yeah,
it's very much like Dan Brown's a hack. That's kind of the general impression among writers, I guess. I don't know.
And we can't blame him for it. We didn't even, and it's a rare case of when there's some film actor stars in a not particularly, proud formula.
Well, the Da Vinci Code was like a phenomenon, the book.
Yeah.
And so it was a no-brainer to take that movie. But then he made 2 more, just like as like a courtesy to Ron Howard, I guess. I mean, the guy, Tom Hanks, works with the dad directors. He works with Zemeckis a lot, Spielberg, Ron Howard. I mean, those are guys who you just want to like sit around a fire with and talk about the good old days.
You wouldn't be surprised though if he worked with anyone else who he hasn't, like. So I mean, he did the Wachowskis, so I wouldn't be surprised if he showed up in a Scorsese movie.
He did do the Wachowskis, yeah.
If he showed up,
he's doing Baz Luhrmann. He's doing the Baz Luhrmann movie.
I didn't know that.
That's where he got COVID.
That's gonna be
that's the Elvis movie he was doing.
Yeah, the Elvis movie. Yeah.
Wow. And even if it's a piece of shit, I mean, I will. I'm sure
we're all gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Baz Luhrmann way.
Pretty much.
That's the Chicago way. Yeah, but yeah, more or less. I mean, if anything, why not just? What wouldn't he want to do? Like, I just have so much faith in him. I doubt he could fall far from the apple tree. He's just so. Again, you guys have already summed it up. He does his homework. He makes everyone feel good, both on screen and on set. So, I mean, the last thing he needs to do is just make everyone feel on and welcome. And I've never heard of anything where he just flat out just gives everyone an angry gaze or speaks out a term. Like the most I've seen him do is curse on network TV and say, adult language he shouldn't have said. That's pretty minor.
But it's usually like a joke where he's like, "Oh, Tom Hanks cursing? This is unexpected."
Yeah, I think that's just it. He has
like a bit
nature. Yeah, it was a bit that misfired, and you're not going to see him doing anything outrageous like flipping people off in public or in blackface for Halloween. You're not going to see him doing something just so unacceptable. He could have pulled a Clark Gable. He could have run someone over and paid off the family. The kid they made a bastard. You have yet to see anything shady of that magnitude for him. I don't think he's just invincible. He's just it's just one of a kind, like you say. And I mean, so many good performances, like you guys have summed up, to where you would still probably get into like 30 plus movies, of his.
I was just looking at his credits right now. You want to hear this run he went on in the 90s? These are all consecutive. I'm not skipping over any movies. A League of Their Own, Sleepless in Seattle, Philadelphia, Forrest Gump, Apollo 13, Toy Story, That Thing You Do, Saving Private Ryan, You've Got Mail, Toy Story 2, Castaway, Toy Story 2, Green Mile, Castaway, Road to Perdition, Catch Me If You Can. Consecutively.
Right.
That's unbelievable.
Right.
Consecutively, yes. And this is like,
all hits, no skips. Tommy Hanks.
Even with Bonfire, I mean, that was just the turning of the century. Like there was a lot of duds in 1990, 91.
Yeah, he was coming off of Bonfire of the Vanities and Radio Flyer. So
that might have been motivation enough. Or he's like, okay, can't sink that low again. Give me a winner. I'll knock him dead. And I think it helped that he kept working with people he had already worked with. So if anything, they were enabling each other. Everyone's going to already show up to see a Ron Howard or Spielberg movie. So yeah, the most I can do is, suck in it. And I'm not going to do that.
And he's not going to do that because he's great in all of those movies.
But he could try very little and it would be good. He knows what he wants to do. Yeah, you never get
undersell Tom Hanks. You keep saying like Tom Hanks.
I'm just joking in that
Tom Hanks is like, he brings Tom Hanks to it. He's elevating.
He's already bringing a magnitude. But I'm just saying he could literally.
He knows who to work with. You're right.
He's just great. But what's phenomenal is the whole just dedication and making it almost feel just seamless. And I think that's just it. Like everyone thinks he plays all these characters in his sleep, and is like, some of these characters are still a little complex. And so if anything, he has to figure out, again, what does he want to say and how does he want to convey it to the camera? But I mean, it is a weird predicament in that, again, it's not meant for everyone. But we have yet to hear him say, hey, I had to tap out. These roles were getting too hard, or man, I mean, what would his final role even be? I don't even want to think of that, but I'm just saying. I mean, it's just like, what would he?
How dare you even bring it up?
I'm just saying, because I mean,
maybe he'll do what Nick Cage does, and he'll play himself in a movie about him.
That'd be hysterical.
I mean, that I would be down for that.
Do it.
You just gave me like a bad image of him as what's his face, Jason Robards in Magnolia, just like on his deathbed, and now I'm really sad. It's gonna be a sad day.
Oh man, that would be hysterical. Well, let's hope. He's already an angel, so let's just hope he doesn't even, pass away. He just kind of just becomes one with the earth.
Also, you know what's weird? How do you pronounce the island movie that he's in. How do you say the title of that film? The Zemeckis.
Morel? No, just kidding. That'd be funny if he was in that.
Everybody just calls it
Island
Castaway,
movie,
right?
Castaway, right?
Yeah, Castaway.
But it's 2 words, so shouldn't it technically be Cast Away?
He was
Castaway.
cast away.
Yeah.
Well, it's everybody pronounces it like it's 1 word, but it's 2.
Right.
It's Cast Away. But I just say
Castaway.
Castaway.
Oh, of course.
I don't know. It should be 1 word in my opinion, but it's 2. Anyway, that's my random thought of the day.
I mean, he made it 1. He makes everyone 1 as a whole.
Wonderful.
That's true. It is a yes. It is a testament to his ability to unify us all that he turned 2 words into 1.
I mean, he could be a teacher, and everyone would want to take his class. So,
Dude,
Why
he would
doesn't
be
he
the
have a master
best. He would be the best, like high school science teacher. He would make me love science.
right? He can make everyone like something they normally don't like. So, I mean, he's working on his magic somehow. He's a magician who doesn't even need to rely on any set of cards or taking a rabbit out of a hat. He's just he can literally tell you, "I'm a magician," and you would believe it.
He's the greatest movie
That's the
star of
horror.
all time that isn't cool. Right? Like Jack Nicholson, cool. Tom Hanks, not really cool, but also a great movie star. A very different kind of movie star than the Tom Hankses of the world or the Warren Beatty's of the world. But he's the
Right.
best.
Warren Beatty was hot shit for like 2 decades.
He's no
and then
Robert
disappeared.
Redford, right?
Yeah.
He's very different than those.
Just don't let him rate out the Oscar Best Picture. You know, we can't have that again. But love him. Hey Cam, I'm not sure what time you are wrapping up, but I have to bounce for the stream.
That's fine. So I feel like you guys summed up the whole gist of this. So how about we all plug our shows and go from here?
Okay, awesome. That sounds great. I mean, I'll just go first and say part of the interruption, but you can check out Front Row Film Roast. We have our own podcast. We also talk about movies, as well as our Twitch channel where we riff and roast movies similar to Mystery Science Theater 3000, except we tend to go to more pop culture and television versus the B movie. Both great, both awesome things. So check that out, Front Row Film Roast or at Film Roast on Twitch.
You guys are killing it. All right. Next, Jay.
Yeah, so we have our little podcast thingy over at Insession Film. You can find us on whatever podcatcher you're using. We have a main show where they cover all the big kind of movies, and I host the extra film show where we do like director series and cover maybe some of the smaller movies that people hopefully will see because we're talking about them. But Insession Film, find that wherever you get your podcast or go to insessionfilm.com.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. John, if there's anything you want to promote, any closing thoughts?
Oh, as always, let's say you can find me on the Action Leads. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Jonathan Mark.
Okay, well, sweet. Thank you all so much for just wanting to tackle this, again, a likable guy who we don't have anything bad to say, you know?
Not at all.
David S. Pumpkins.
That's like the most, even he didn't know it was going to blow up like that, you know? You can't predict success necessarily, and here's a guy who just navigated it. Just said, well, you better start.
The man has rarely made a wrong step, which is just remarkable for someone in his profession.
And all the more power to him, you know? Just, instead of getting hung up on what doesn't work, make everything work.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being on here. This, again, it's very rare that we get to just be so positive. And just,
Yeah.
everything is
Not a bad word said this episode.
it's just, it pays to have that.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try?
They must be destroyed on sight.
the new podcast cure-all, sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of...
They must be destroyed on sight!
As needed, and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of it.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
doll popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was.
How
could
you watch this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hey everybody, I'm Corey.
And I'm Zach, and we're the hosts of Podcasting After Dark, a cast dedicated to late-night horror and sci-fi of the 80s and 90s, often found on HBO and Cinemax.
You know, the movies your parents didn't want you watching as a kid. You can find us every other week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher.
This is what you want.
This is what you get.
Greetings, friends. My name is Dean Legiro, and I'm the host of the 3324 podcast. I invite you to join me and my lifelong friend Eric Kuber to come with us as we discuss the music and movies that shaped our life. Each week, we'll pick an album or film that we really connect to, and not only give you some great info and trivia, but also discuss, debate, and celebrate what it means to us and the journey it took us on. We also look forward to hearing from you and giving us some of your picks for us to check out and discuss. I think it'll be a really fun experience, so come along with us for the ride. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider and at 3324.buzzsprout.com. Thanks for your time, and welcome to the 3324 family.
It's time, let's check our cue, baby. Pair it with a couple brews, baby. We love good movies. We love the bad ones too. So we watch them all and pass their lessons on to you. Oh yeah. Everything I learned from movies helps to make life a little bit groovy. With a one-liner plot holes of gratuitous movies. It's time to get busy with your friend Steve and Izzy. At eilfm.podbean.com.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up review show.